welcome back to Cooking with Derek. I'm Derek, and I'm starting a new series of Derek Does Hollywood, as in Paul Hollywood. I'm going to be doing some recipes from this cookbook. If you don't know who Paul Hollywood is, he's been a long-term judge on the Great British Baking Show. He's a master baker in his own right. He knows his stuff. His cookbook, Bake, is, I'm lucky enough to have one. It's got some really good recipes. And today, episode 1 of Doing Hollywood, we're going to make some classic scones. So stick around, meet me at the bench, and we'll make some scones. Thanks for meeting me at the bench. Okay, let's make some scones. I'm going to be weighing all the ingredients. I find that so simple and so quick. And I'm also using a food processor because that makes it a simple, fast operation as well. You can easily make them in a bowl. Just use your hands and a spoon. But I'm choosing to use a food processor. First ingredient Paul calls for in his scones, 500 grams of flour. I'm using all-purpose. You can use bread flour. Oh, hang on a second here. I need to tear this. Put your measuring jug on the scales, click tear. It resets it to 0, and I want 500 grams. And these scones are so good. Okay, I'm at 246. That also equals 4 cups of flour, but I find this baking should actually be a very precise. Okay, 470, just a few more grams. Okay, there is 500 grams of flour. I tip that into the food processor with the blade. Now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of baking powder. You can weigh that if you like, that's 25 grams. But 2 tablespoons of baking powder. And the next thing I'm going to add is 80 grams of butter. It calls for unsalted, but I just have butter, so we're going to put 80 grams in. Okay. Don't worry about my fingers. I did wash them. Actually, I washed all of my hands. Okay. We've got, and I'll just tip that in, and we are pretty much done with the scales. So I can just set these up there. I'm going to put the top on the food processor and just give it a couple of pushes. We want the end result to look like breadcrumbs. So you can actually do that by hand if you choose. Next, I'm taking a bowl. I'm adding, oh, look at that. 1 egg. And then I'm going to add the second egg. And give that and beat those eggs up. And I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of sugar, or 80 grams. Stir the sugar and the beaten eggs together. I'm going to put that in the food processor. Give it a few pulses here, not quite. Now I need to add the cup of milk. It's whole milk. I mixed in the eggs, the sugar. Now it's time for the cup of milk. Pour that in. Now it'll form a dough. mix it just till it starts to come together. There we go. Clear some room on the bench. And we want a lightly floured surface. So just gonna lightly flour that. Tip out the dough. Like I say, you can easily do this by hand, but I chose this method because it's just so quick, and then I can put the food processor parts into the dishwasher. Okay, there's the dough. Give this a bit of a knead. You just want it to come together in a dough, and I can start rolling it out. It's been lightly floured. Got my rolling pin, and we want it about an inch and a quarter thick. And I tell you, okay, I've got my cutter. Make sure you flour it. And we're going to cut out some shapes. Can you see? Let's move the camera down just a bit. There we go. And how do you like your scones? I like them with butter, jam, cold or fresh. Okay, I'll grab a baking sheet. I don't think there's a need for parchment paper. I've never had trouble with these before. And they just go onto the sheet, just like that. And set that aside. The kitchen is small, it's compact, but I can sure get food together. You don't need a great big kitchen. Okay, roll this out again. Try not to overwork it, or they will not rise as much, or they'll get tough. Okay, and then cut out some more. Just 3 more. It's a recipe. Paul says it makes 11. I seem to get a few more than that out of it. Maybe I roll them just a little bit thinner than Paul. But I'm going to look at a solid dozen here. That's 12. Maybe I can get this last bit of dough together into one. Okay, there'll be 13. A baker's dozen. Once you have your scones all cut out, take a small mixing bowl. We're going to beat an egg into this, and a pinch of salt. And a pinch of salt is usually bigger than what most cooks think. It's what you can pinch together with your 3 fingers, your 2 fingers and your thumb. So I've got salt. I'm out of practice on doing the videos because I took a significant break from making cooking videos, so I'm not as prepped as I could be. We want the salt to dissolve into this beaten egg. And I need to grab my brush. And brush the tops. Once I have brushed the top with this egg wash, I'm putting them in the fridge for 15 minutes, and in that 15 minutes I will preheat the oven to, what does he call for? 425. And there will be a batch of beautifully risen tasty sweet scones. And I quite often make these, and leftovers go into a canister, and they stay moist for days. I don't know why so many of the coffee shops, theirs don't seem to keep. They get dry, they get heavy, and there you go. These are ready to go into the fridge for 15 minutes. Before they go in the oven, they will get brushed one more time with the egg and salt mix, and then I can show you the end result. Thank you so much for following along. I know I'm a bit clumsy, out of practice, but together we're gonna get there. Hey, it's been 15 minutes. These have been chilling. The oven is preheated. One more anointing with egg and salt blend. Do try and be careful. Don't let it run down the sides. That can inhibit the scone's ability to rise as high as we'd like, or maybe even pin it down on one side. And then if you don't have the rise, you don't have the picture. Oh, I've got a couple where it's kind of gone down the sides, so we'll see how they do. But the salt is actually a nice layer on top. It goes well with sweet, and if you choose to have a scone with cheese, then that accents that as well. So that's that. Now they go into a 325 oven, F for 15 minutes. Here I am at the cooker. It's been 15 minutes. The place is smelling good, and the scones are done. Let's get them out of the oven. They have risen nicely indeed. The ones that are a bit shorter are the ones that were the second roll, some of them. And the third one that I pieced together is kind of misshapen, but it'll still taste just as fine. So onto the cooling rack, and in a while, I'll give you a taste test. Thanks for following along so far. Hello, here I am at the table, and I am going to try these scones. So let's see here. I'll take the misshapen one. But check out the height on some of these. They are actually pretty impressive. I'm so happy I have that Paul Hollywood cookbook and found that recipe. So, split your scone. I'm going to try mine with some heart-conscious margarine and some raspberry jam. And I've made these enough times that it's pretty predictable what they're like. So I'm expecting something good. If you've never made scones, I encourage you to try. So much better than the ones you get in the coffee shop. Yep. They're light, they're flavorful, they're worth the effort, and it's not that much effort. So thanks for watching the video today, Cooking with Derek, and Derek Does Hollywood, episode 1. And we'll take it from here and carry on making more food. Thanks for joining me, and have a great day.